welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to get into the KKW Beauty and Allison collaboration. For those of you that don't know, Allison is Kim Kardashian's best friend since childhood, and they got together and created some products. I bought the entire collection. I know a lot of you guys know that I love KKW Beauty as a brand. I have a lot of KKW Beauty in my collection, and I thought it would be fun to buy everything in the collection, try it all on for you, and give you guys my full honest opinion on everything in the collection. Now, this collection launched a little bit ago. It took a minute for me to get it. The shipping takes a while from KKW Beauty. I finally got it in my collection, and then I wasn't able to film with it because I got sick and I had an ovarian cyst and it put me down for a couple days. So I'm back up going again, and this was the first collection I decided to film with. So let's jump into what is a part of this collection. So they launched one palette, which is called the BFFAE palette, which is Best Friends Forever and Ever. So this is kind of like a nice cool tone purple pink moment. It retails for $30 on the KKW Beauty website. It is formulated for easy and blendable application and packaged for on-the-go use. The matte shadows provide a creamy velvety finish, an array of warm tones. These are not warm toned. The mattes are not warm toned. The website says they're warm toned. They're cool toned. An array of metallic and duochrome shadows can be used wet or dry with brushes or fingers to create an effortless, saturated, silky look. This is more of just like a regular shimmer. I think this is the duochrome, which in my opinion, don't mind my fake tan hands. That's what you get for putting fake tan on when you're a little bit drugged up on medicine for pain. Wasn't a smart idea. But this beautiful purple shade is what I actually have on my lid, and it does kind of have a duochrome effect. It's really pretty. Like, it is a very beautiful purple. They also launched two face palettes, and the packaging is the exact same. So we have the packaging for the actual palette itself, the eye palette, and then the packaging for the face palette. It is a 3-in-1 face palette formulated with pigmented, packed, blendable highlighter, bronzer, and blush powder for the ultimate bronzed rosy look. The creamy powder formulas glide on the skin with a silky finish, allowing buildable coverage throughout the day. This is what the Ladera palette looks like, and I would definitely say this is geared for light to light medium skin. It has a matte warm tan bronzer. It has a matte warm rose blush, and it has a shimmering pale pink for the highlighter. I applied it on this side of the face, and I would say the bronzer really didn't show up on me, and the highlighter kind of turned me gray, which means that it's just not the right color combination for my skin tone. But I did apply it on camera, and I do some swatches of this so you guys can see what the actual tones are. Also get into my opinions and thoughts on the formula. Now, the second palette is called Tower Lane. Now, Tower Lane is a matte neutral tan bronzer, a matte terracotta peach blush, and a shimmering warm champagne gold highlighter. Now, if you guys are like me and you have a lot of KKW Beauty in your collection, I will be swatching these blushes and highlighters next to some of the other blushes and highlighters that I have from the KKW Beauty line. So I will definitely be showing you guys those swatches later on in the video. They also launched two lip crayons. They have the shade London and they have the shade Palm Springs. Right now I'm wearing the shade Palm Springs, which is more of the nude tone of the two. And I'm wearing it with the Nude 2 lip liner from KKW Beauty, which is one of my favorites from her line. Her lip liners are one of my favorites. I just love the undertones of them. They're such good tones, like such good tones. So the lip crayons retail for $18 each. So then they also have the PPS gloss, and it retails for $20, and it's just a clear gloss. So that's what we're going to be doing in today's video. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the application portion of the video. I'm going to apply both of the face palettes on my face, create this eyeshadow look using the palette. Then we're going to get into the swatches, comparisons, and then I will see you guys all in my final thoughts. Okay, so let's start playing with the two face palettes that came in this collection. Now, I've got two brushes here. They're as clean as I'm going to get them because I haven't cleaned my brushes in a minute, you guys. I need to clean my brushes. So I'm going to put the lighter face palette on this side and the medium to tan on this side. So the lighter face palette is called Ladera, and the medium is called Towerlane. So I'm going to go into the bronzer on the lighter one and just see if it will show up on my skin tone. Yeah, it's not really showing up all that much, but I just wanted to apply it so that you guys could see. This bronzer is definitely not really going to show up on my skin tone. I mean, I could just sit here and keep applying it, but it's just a little bit too light for my skin tone. So I'm going to grab the bronzer in the medium palette. I'm not really having the best luck with this bronzer. I feel like it might get a little bit too muddy, and I don't want a muddy bronzer. Yeah, I'm gonna have to kind of buff all of that out with some powder. It's okay bronzer. It's not my favorite formula, to be honest with you. So let's go into the blush. I'm gonna wipe off my blush brush. I'm gonna go into the light palette, into the blush right here. I'm gonna wipe the brush off, and I'm gonna keep wiping until I get it pretty clean. Okay, and then I'm gonna go in to the terracotta one on this side. It's a very buildable formula. I definitely like the blush more than I do the bronzer. I just felt like the bronzer was just, not my favorite formula. It's just a little bit too dry, and it just doesn't really pack a punch, and then you have to keep kind of building it, and the more you build it, the more you run the risk of it getting muddy. So let's go into the highlighters. We're gonna do this light frosted pink one. Okay, this you guys, I'm not a fan of this palette, like not even a little bit. Now don't get me wrong, this highlighter is not for my skin tone. So it's kind of turning me like gray, and especially from the side, it's probably not show up on the light, but it's kind of got a gray tone on my skin tone. So this is definitely not the right highlighter for my skin. So let's go into this one right here. Yeah, that shade is a lot better. I kind of personally feel like these are a waste of money. I don't know that I would pick these up. I just do not love the way that this kind of blended into the skin. So let's go ahead and jump into the eyeshadow palette. I had to switch my concealer, so my under eyes probably look a little bit different. Last night I like projectile vomited. I've been having this like issue with my ovarian cyst. They gave me some medication, and somehow last night it made me super sick. So I had all these so my under eyes were looking really bad, and I was wearing more of like a natural concealer that just did not work with the situation I had going on. So I wiped it off and had to go with my Old Faithful Hourglass Vanish Concealer, because it is like the solution to all my problems when it comes to my under eye situation. Now, before we jump into the eyeshadow look, I do want to try the lippy stuff just so that I can have something on my lips. So we have the shade Palm Spring and London. Okay, so this is the shade Palm Springs, and this is the shade London. That's how they match with the palette. Let's try on the shade London. On my lips, it's a little bit more of a natural pink. When I swatched it, I felt like it was going to be really pink, but it's actually not. It's not as pink as I was expecting it to be, but this looks really pretty. And let's put on the shade Palm Springs. Palm Springs is probably going to have to need a lip liner, but let's show you what it looks like without. Yeah, Palm Springs, you need a lip liner with this one. I do, at least. Yeah. So I'm going to wipe it off, and I'm going to use one of my KKW Beauty lip liners. Okay, so I grabbed Nude 2. Okay, so this is a really pretty nude lip. It matches well with the Nude 2. I kind of would have preferred these to maybe have that purple or frosty pink kind of theme, kind of to match the eyeshadow palette. I don't know, maybe that's asking too much. Or even the gloss to have like a frosted pink or something. I don't know. Like for me with this collection, I'm kind of craving that frosted pink look. That's my opinion on the lippies. Let's jump into the eyeshadow palette. So I'm gonna first just take a brush. I'm gonna take the BK Beauty 206 brush, and I'm gonna go into this light matte shade. It's kind of like a light pink. I'm gonna use that to kind of highlight the brow bone. It's kind of a perfect color for that. And then I'm gonna also bring it right here on the inner corner and kind of just brighten that area up. Let's grab this shade. I want to see what this shade will look like in my crease. I want to see if it's dark enough to kind of work into my crease. So I don't think it's going to be, but I could totally be wrong. So I'm going to grab that shade and just start kind of working this into the crease with my Rephr number 13 brush. Kind of laying the groundwork down. I think if your my skin tone are darker, this shade's really not going to show up for you. I mean, it's kind of carving it out, but I would use the shade more as like a blending shade versus like a transition crease shade. I feel like this might be the perfect shade to really blend out some of the darker colors. I'm going to switch brushes, and I'm going to grab my BK Beauty 207 brush. I'm going to go into this shade right here. Focus that here on the outer corner. Now, if you want more pigment than this, then you wouldn't tap off. I like to have a little bit of pigment to work with and like really blend it out and kind of take my time to blend it out. I'm going to take that shade and lightly add it to the lower lash line. And because I don't want that shade to be too dark, I'm really tapping it off and working it in. Still working with that shade, and I'm just kind of building this outer corner just to give me a little bit more depth. Right now I'm using a bigger fluffy brush. This is the BK Beauty 202 brush. And just kind of working it and blending it, and that shade works really well on its own. Like it's a nice shade. I'm really impressed by it. Now I'm gonna go into the dark gray right up here at the top, and I'm gonna pack that on the outer corner. Yeah, just kind of blending that in. I'm going to take a flat brush like this. This is the flat definer from Sigma. I'm going to grab this shade right here, and I'm going to really smoke that into the lower lash line. Also bringing it up here on the upper lash line. Now I kind of want to play around with some of these shades, and I really want that lavender all over the lid, and then maybe this to like really open the eye. So I think I'm going to start with this shade. I think it's gorgeous. I am so excited to use it. I'm going to apply this dry so we can see what it looks like. I'm going to tip my head back and just start applying it right there in that. Ooh, she is frosty, frosty. Oh my gosh, that shade is so pretty. Bringing it on the inner corner as well. Oh my gosh, that shade is so pretty. Holy smokes, you guys. And it's beautiful dry. Like, you really don't need to wet it. So now I'm going to go into the lilac shade, that purple shade right here. And I'm going to apply this dry just to see what it looks like. Take my finger into that lavender shade and really press that in. Whew. She is pretty. I'm going to grab my reference number 13. I'm going to grab this shade right here. And I'm just going to go over top of the outer corner right here and just kind of blend that lavender shade into the dark. That's what I've always loved about her mattes. Like, yeah, they're not as pigmented as like Natasha Denona or Pat McGrath or anything like that, but her mattes blend on top of themselves so easily, and I think that's one reason why I've always really enjoyed her palettes. I'm gonna grab this shade right here and use it to blend. That's the one reason why I've always really enjoyed her palettes, is that they're just very easy for me to use. They're just very user-friendly palettes. They're not really intimidating. They're very wearable and easy shades to use, and the pigment is great, but also very user-friendly, and you don't really need to worry about your skill when it comes to her palettes, because you can build and layer them and they blend really pretty. I love this. I think this is absolutely beautiful. Okay, so this is the final look, and I think this eyeshadow look turned out really pretty. It gives me the vibes of the Natasha Denona Glam palette because it's got so many of the grays and the pinks and the purples, but this purple shade right here is frosty. It's so much more frosty than I thought it was going to be, and it is such a beautiful shade. So that shade, in my opinion, stands out. Such a beautiful eyeshadow look, and it does give you that really pretty purple vibe. So really, really pretty. I like the way this all turned out. Okay, so that's it for the tutorial portion of the video. Let's go ahead and jump into the swatches and some comparisons. I think I'll compare this palette to the new Natasha Denona Glam palette for you guys, so you guys can see how this compares to that palette, the shades and the tones and all of that. And then we will jump into my final thoughts. So I will see you guys then. Okay, so now that we've made it through the application and the swatches, let me go ahead and get into my final thoughts. I'm gonna first talk about this palette because I actually really like this palette. I really like this palette. And when I reviewed the Natasha Denona Glam palette, you guys know I've really enjoyed this cool tone palette, but there was a lot of you in the comments section that said that you were concerned about this palette being too much of the same, and you felt like you wouldn't be able to create more than just like 1 to 3 looks And would the looks look that different? So I understand that there's a lot of people that had that concern. And let me tell you this, if you did not buy the Glam palette, I think you'll really love the KKW Beauty one because it gives you those beautiful cool tone shades. Don't get me wrong, it's $30. So for 6 shades, this one is like $65 for 15. So don't get me wrong, you get a way better deal when it comes to Natasha Denona versus the KKW Beauty. You just do. But if you did not buy the Glam palette because you felt like you liked the color story, but it was just too much of the same, and maybe you just wanted something a little bit smaller, a little bit more condensed, this is a nice palette. Now, the only color that I really didn't like in this palette was this shade right here, and the reason is because I didn't feel like it was dark enough to be a transition shade, but I also didn't feel like it was all that necessary, because this one is so dark and this one is so gray. I do like how we have these two options, but I would have preferred this to be a little bit darker. Same tone, same shade, but a little bit deeper. But other than that, like, this shade is so pretty on my eyelid. This shade in the inner corner is gorgeous. It's like the Glam palette simplified. So those are my thoughts on it. I really like the palette, but if you already have the Natasha Denona Glam palette, you don't need this one from KKW Beauty. I kind of wish that it was a little bit cheaper. I think maybe $22 or, you know, $23 would be the better price for this one. $30 is a little steep for this, but it's still a great palette. I've enjoyed it. And I'm going to continue to use it because I do love the color story. But again, if you have the Glam palette, you don't need this palette because they're very, very similar. I think the lippies, you guys heard me talk about the lippies. I like these colors, but I do not think they go with this collection. I just am kind of confused by it. Like the kind of weird magenta pink and the nude shade, which she has so many nudes already in her collection in the lip crayons. I have so many of those lip crayons that are in this nude color. It was just pointless. Like, I would have loved to have had this in like a beautiful pink shimmery shade or a purple shimmer shade or something like that as far as this lip crayon. So I kind of think they missed the mark on the lip crayon. I think they're a total pass for me, but that's just my opinion. And the clear gloss, it's a pass, you guys. It's just a clear gloss. Like, I just don't see the need to have this clear gloss. This would have been beautiful if it was the frosted pink or frosted purple or something. I would have loved it then. Like, I would have been like, oh my gosh, but it's just clear and it is what it is. Probably something to do with their friendship. Maybe they loved clear gloss when they were in high school. Maybe it had some kind of meaning to them and their friendship. But as far as the collection overall, I just kind of felt like it was pointless to do a gloss that's clear. That's my opinion. And that's also coming from somebody that loves KKW Beauty glosses. I think the clear is pointless. So let me move on to the face palettes. I do not like these face palettes. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. So let me show you. As I've been swatching them, look how freaking powdery these are. Look at this bronzer. You guys, look at how powdery they are. My camera goes dark. I mean, they're so powdery. I do not like that type of bronzer where it's so powdery that it becomes a muddy mess on the face. And that was my experience with both of the palettes. Both the light and the dark. Both not good. I'm sorry, but they're not good. And then when you swatch the blush, it's really hard to get a swatch out of it. Like, it's so light colored. And don't mind my fake tan hands, you guys. Seriously, they're a hot mess. But, I mean, it's really hard to swatch the blushes because they're, again, very powdery. Let me show you. Look at this. Look how powdery these are. They're just super powdery. Now, let me show you here on the back of my arm. See how, like, powdery they are? When you have a swatch where when you first swatch, all of the stuff is right at the beginning, you know that's not a good sign. Swatches are good to kind of know what the shades are going to be like and, you know, kind of get a feel for the color story. But a lot of the times, sometimes swatches are very good to know what kind of formula it is. Is it creamy? Is it buttery? Is it chalky? These are very, very chalky. Now, this highlighter, even if you have a light skin tone and you like a pink undertone highlighter, this is not pretty. There are so many beautiful pink highlighters out on the market. This is not pretty. I'm sorry, but it is a powdery, dusty mess. Again, here we go. So it's so chalky and like weird. I don't like it. Not even a little bit. These face palettes are not worth the money. I'm sorry. You guys know that I love KKW Beauty. KKW Beauty has had a very special place in my heart. Since I started my channel, I have really loved KKW Beauty. I pretty much have every palette that KKW Beauty has ever sold except for the solid matte palettes. Those are the only two palettes that I don't have. And every other palette I have so many of her lipsticks, so many of her lip liners. In fact, I dedicated an entire video to all of the lip products that I have from KKW Beauty, which I will link right up here in the iCards. I have 4 of the mini pan blushes in my collection. I have 2 of the highlighters in my collection. You guys, I am very familiar with KKW Beauty. I know that her formula has a little bit of the chalkiness to it. These palettes, oh my gosh, they're chalky. So chalky. Like, don't waste your money on these. I'm sorry, but they're not good. Now, I also have the matte 3-pan palette that I swatched in the comparison. I also have the shimmer to this. So I have the shimmer and the matte. And these are still chalky. Like, her formula is just really chalky. So keep that in mind. I think there's a lot of great blushes out on the market, and that's just not my thing. They're just not that good, in my opinion. So those are my brutally honest opinions and thoughts on this collection. I hope that this review was helpful. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me in today's video. Thank you so much for all the love that you have shown me since I started this whole weekend of hell and pain with my ovarian cyst. You guys have been so amazing, and I am so grateful. You guys are my family, and I love you guys. So thank you again. I hope that you guys all have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys all in my next video. Love you. Bye.